Hello friends, welcome, namaskar. In this session, we will start with the chapter number 2 of the volume 1 of the Economic Survey 2019-20. So Economic Survey 2019-20, chapter number 2 of volume 1, right? So the theme of this year's Economic Survey volume 1 is wealth creation. In the first chapter, we discussed about two important aspects: the invisible hand of market and the trust as a public good. Now, in this chapter, for wealth creation, we will see how the entrepreneurship at the grassroots level, at the district level. When I say grassroots, at the district level, how this entrepreneurship impacts the wealth creation. So we will analyze the role of entrepreneurship at the district level, right? To start with, let us see what will be the index, the coverage of this session. So in this session, first we will see some important facts, some important observations. Then we will see the content and drivers of entrepreneurship. What are the different data sources based upon which we are analyzing this entrepreneurship? What is the status of entrepreneurship? What is the role of entrepreneurship in the GDP growth? Determinants of entrepreneurial activity. Research and determinants of entrepreneurial activity. What is the impact of these factors on the entrepreneurship? What is the policy needed? We will also see the MCQs, and finally we will also see the synopsis of this chapter, right? So to start with, the Startup India campaign of the government of India recognizes entrepreneurship as an increasingly important strategy to fuel productivity growth and wealth creation in India. So friends, the present government, when it came into power in 2014, it introduced a very vibrant program, the Startup India program. Friends, in India, we have a lot of job seekers and we are having a shortage of job creators. So, to incentivize the job creators to take up new startups, this Startup India was introduced, right? Given this initiative, this chapter examines the content and drivers of entrepreneurship activity at the bottom of the administrative pyramid. So, administrative pyramid of the government, the bottom of administrative pyramid is basically the district. So, it is taking care of, it is observing the data of 500 districts of India, right? So this data, this analysis we are doing for the 500 districts of India, right? So before we move ahead, let us first see the basics of the Startup India, right? So first of all, what is the meaning of Startup India? What is the meaning of startup? So there are three conditions for any firm to be called a startup. First of all, the age of firm should not be more than 7 years. So the firm should be between 0 day to 7 years of age. Second, the turnover or the total sales in any of the 7 years should not exceed 25 crore rupees, or any of the past year, not 7 year, any of the past year so far the total sale in a particular year should not exceed 25 crore rupees. If it exceeds 25 crore rupees, then it will no longer be a startup. Third, it should be engaged in any activity which is technologically or which is driven technologically or driven by the intellectual property, right? So 3 conditions, let us see. First condition, up to 7 years of age from the date of its incorporation, right? So 7 years of age. This is the first condition. Second, if its turnover for any of the financial year has not exceeded rupees 25 crore, right? So far the turnover is less than equal to 25 crore for a particular year, that is per annum, PA, per annum. Third, it's working towards innovation, development, deployment or commercialization of new products, processes or services driven by technology or intellectual property. So all this work should be driven by technology or intellectual property, IP. So these are the 3 conditions. These 3 conditions, all of these 3 conditions must be satisfied for any firm to be classified as the startup. Now, what are the benefits available to the startup, right? So once any firm is classified as a startup, there are certain benefits which are available. So what are the benefits available? Incentives available. First, self-certification compliance, right? So they can self-certify the government documents. They do not need to get a certification from the professionals because that means they have to incur the cost. So to decrease the compliance cost, the self-certification mechanism has been allowed. Number 2, no inspection for the first 3 years. So Inspector Raj has been minimized. For the first 3 years, there will be no inspection for them. Number 3, no income tax on profits for first 3 years. This is also important. For the first 3 years, they will not have any income tax on their profit. Number 4, mobile app for startup registration in 1 day. So any startup can register only in 1 day through the mobile app. Number 5, Startup India Hub as a single point contact. So the government will make a hub where all the startup can contact for any of their queries. So it will make their business very, very easy. Number 6, exemption from capital gains tax on personal property sold to invest in a startup. So if any person sells his own personal property and uses that amount for the startup activity, then the profit on the sale of such property will be tax free. So the capital gain tax on such sale of property will not be levied. Next, 80% rebate on patent filing fees. So if any patent request is put up by the startup, then 80% rebate will be provided in the fees. Then we have insolvency and bankruptcy code. So in the insolvency and bankruptcy code, 19 days have been allowed to exit from the business. 500 tinkering labs, they will be supporting the startups. 35 public-private incubators will be established. 31 innovation centers at the national institutes will be established. Dedicated fund of rupees 10,000 crore to promote the startups will be established. Credit guarantee scheme for the loans, so they will be getting easy loans because the government will be providing the credit guarantee. 5 new bioclusters and 7 new research parks will be established. Patent regime and IBR to be simplified. So you can see, from taxation to availability of loan to regular compliances to patent and intellectual property compliances to funds of 10,000 crore, all these things are made available to startups so that more and more people are attracted towards the entrepreneurship, right? So this Startup India has been very highlighted by the government and actually been one of the trigger point for startup hub in the India. Now, the analysis which is done by the economic survey team, it reveals certain important facts. Please be careful, because based upon these facts we will do the further analysis. In the further analysis we will elaborate these facts in much more detail only, right? So let us see analysis. What is the analysis? Yeah, the analysis reveals, number one, India ranks third in the number of new firms created. This is very good. In the world, we are the third country to have largest number of firms created every year. This is a good sign. Number two, new firms creation has gone up dramatically in India since 2014. So since the start of Startup India, the new firm creation has gone up dramatically. India's new economic structure, that is comparative advantage in the services sector with respect to manufacturing, infrastructure or agriculture sector. So if we consider manufacturing sector, infrastructure sector and agriculture sector, these three sectors are lagging behind as compared to the services sector. Friends, as of now, if we see, if we want to start a business or anyone, it is very easy to start a business in the services sector. A single person can start the business in the service sector. All you need is some knowledge, a laptop and internet connection. You can work on websites, you can provide different kind of online services and the business starts. However, if you want to establish any venture in the manufacturing sector, you need a very big land. You need to invest crores of rupees. You need to hire labor. You need to have a lot of compliances. So all that takes a lot of time, tension, and not everyone is interested in establishing a manufacturing enterprise. Similarly, in the infrastructure, the gestation period is very long. It takes 20 to 25 years for a power plant to be profitable. It takes 5 to 10 years for the revenues in the form of toll charges which start coming from a road sector project. So in the infrastructure, in the manufacturing and similarly in the agriculture, there are a lot of investment, uncertainty and tension as compared to the services sector. So in India, because we are having a huge demographic advantage, the skill development is very good. Education levels are increasing. So in the services sector, it is very easy to establish an enterprise. Right? Next, grassroots and entrepreneurship, it is not just driven by necessity. As a 10% increase in the registration of new firms in a district yields a 1.8% increase in the gross district domestic product. So if the number of new firms increased by 10%, it increases the district's GDP by 1.8%. So it has a positive impact. So the point is that this grassroots entrepreneurship is not just driven by necessity. It is not catering to just local needs. It is catering to the outside need also. Right? So they are driven by the profits also, not just the local necessity. This impact of entrepreneurial activity on GDP is maximal for the manufacturing and services sector. So the maximum growth in such a way can be seen in the manufacturing and the services sector as compared to the agriculture sector. Next point, number 5, the birth of new firms is very heterogeneous across Indian districts. So there is an even distribution of firms across district and across sectors. So there is no high concentration in particular districts. This entrepreneurial activity can be seen across district and across sectors. Moreover, it is dispersed across India and is not restricted to just a few cities.
Look, please.
Now, the level of local education and the quality of physical infrastructure in the district influence new firm creation significantly. So there are two important aspects: the level of local education and the quality of physical infrastructure, right? Physical infrastructure like roads, electricity, etc. These two factors impact a lot as far as the firm creation is considered. Next, the policies that enable ease of doing business and flexible labor regulation enable new firm creation, especially in the manufacturing sector. So two aspects from the policy front. There are two aspects. One is the ease of doing business and second is the flexible labor regulation. These two factors really impact new firm creation. So from these 2 points we can see there are 4 important factors which impact the level of new firm creation: local education, quality of physical infrastructure, ease of doing business, flexible labor regulation. So you can give this as a suggestion that how to increase the employment, how to increase the manufacturing base, how to make in India successful. To give your suggestion, you can use this point and you can write, as per economic survey 2020, the India can increase its manufacturing base through emphasizing 4 factors. So this is how we can utilize this economic survey in the answer writing. Next, you can see this chart, growth in new firms in India. So if we see the growth pattern from 2006 to 2014, the annual growth rate is 3.8%, right? If we compare this 3.8% growth rate for a period between 2014 till 2018, it comes to 12.2%. So you can see there is almost 3 to 4 times jump in the level of new firm creation. So this is as per the World Bank data. Next point is, if we see sector wise, so there are total 4 sectors. Agriculture sector, this green line indicates the agriculture sector. In the agriculture sector there is minimum number of firms creation. Manufacturing sector, this blue line indicates manufacturing sector. Mustard line indicates infrastructure sector. So infrastructure and manufacturing sector are almost equal. And last one is services sector. In the services sector there has been phenomenal growth, right? So this brown line, this indicates services sector. So the maximum number of firms creation happen in the services sector. Now, entrepreneurship. So there are some important things about the entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship represents a key focus area for many policy makers. So if we see in India different policies, for example, the policy in the agriculture sector. In the agriculture sector, 2 years ago, the budget said that agriculture should be taken as a entrepreneurial activity by the young people. Similarly, in the manufacturing and industrial sector, the Industrial Revolution 4.0 talks about focusing upon the entrepreneurial activity. Make in India says that we should make India the manufacturing hub of the world. So all the policies, they talk about entrepreneurship. We also just discussed about the Startup India, and similarly there is a scheme Stand Up India. So all these schemes, they are focusing upon entrepreneurial activity. So entrepreneurship represents a key focus area for many policy makers given its role in economic development. So it plays a very important role in the economic development, because it provides the goods and services to the customer. It ensures the sufficient and required goods and services for maintaining a standard of living are provided to the people, right? So it provides the goods and services so that the people can maintain their standard of living. Then it provides the taxes to the government. It provides the jobs to the labor. It provides profit making opportunities to the investors. It invites foreign capital from the outside India. So it plays a very important role in the economic development. Similarly, it leads to employment growth also. It leads to the employment growth also. Entrepreneurs are seen as agents of change that accelerate innovation in the economy. So new people, they start new business. They bring up new ideas and they give shape to their idea and convert it into the reality. We can see a lot of example. For example, Flipkart. It converted itself from the seller of book to the unicorn. We can see the concept of Oyo. It has made the accessibility to the hotels very affordable and very easy. Similarly, we can see Ola, Uber. All these, they represent new kind of ideas which makes the life easy, right? So they are seen as the agents of change. Using the World Bank's data, it is very clear that India has third largest entrepreneurship ecosystem in the world if we compare in the Asia, Europe and North America. So if we go to Asia, America and in Asia, North America and Europe, we analyze the data, India is having the third largest entrepreneurship ecosystem in the world. Now, data and methodology. So there are important data sources. The first major data source is the data on district level GDP. So district level data we have taken from the CEIC India Premium Database. So this is a agency. CEIC is a agency which provides the database, and this data has been taken from 2000 till 2018. So 18 years of data has been taken. Total 5,591 district year observations have been taken across 504 districts across 22 states in India. So this data is quite heterogeneous. Number two source of data is Ministry of Corporate Affairs 21 database, MCA 21 database. So this database belongs to the companies, active companies which are registered in the Ministry of Corporate Affairs under the Companies Act 2013 between 1990 and 2019, right? So the companies which got registered in these 29 years, or rather 30 years from 1990 till 2019, those companies have been considered over here. The implications of using these data are: A, it is restricted to the private corporate sector in the formal economy. So this data is restricted, this MCA data is restricted to the private sector, right? Not government sector, cooperative sector, government sector, the data has not been taken. Corporate sector, so this data talks only about the companies. It does not take care of the individuals, proprietorship firm, partnership firm, Hindu undivided family. So all those kind of business are not considered. And it talks only about the formal sector. It does not include the informal sector. It does not include the informal sector. And it does not include the establishments that are expansions by the existing companies. So if existing company is opening its new unit, new branch, that is not included over here. So in a way, this data is very restrictive. But given the present condition, This is the best data that we could have taken. Then number B, since this data is only a one-time snapshot, so we have taken the data on 2019. One-time snapshot of active firms registered with the MCA. At least one limitation imposed is that the firms that did not survive until 2018 cannot be tracked. So those companies which were existing in 2018, only those companies could be included in this data. The companies prior to that could not be included. So this is also one of the very big limitation. So why this slide is important? Just to know that what are the different sources which government can use for analyzing different things in India. Rather, from the exam point of view, this slide is completely useless. Now, status of entrepreneurship. The new firms in the formal sector grew at a CAGR of 3.8% from 16 to 14, and growth rate from 14 to 18 has been 12.2%. We have already seen this fact in the previous slides, that from 16 to 14 the growth rate is 3.8%, and from 14 to 18 the growth rate is 12.2%. As a result, from about 70,000 new firms created in 2014, the number has grown by about 80% to about 1,24,000 new firms in 2018. So now every year around 1,24,000 new firms are created in the private corporate formal sector. When compared to globally, right? So if we do the global comparison, India has low rates of entrepreneurship in the formal economy on a per capita basis. So if we see on a per capita basically means per citizen basis, right? So on a per capita basis, the level of entrepreneurship is low in the formal sector. We are talking about the formal sector. Friends, in India, the informal sector economy is very, very high. Although the data is not yet very much clear, but from different time to time, it is estimated that almost 90% of the enterprises still exist in the informal sector. Right? So in the formal sector, per capita basis, this entrepreneurship is very, very low. The mean or median, that is the average entrepreneurial intensity is the mean number of new firms registered per year per 1,000 worker. So average entrepreneurship intensity, if we take this indicator, average entrepreneurship intensity, every year for 1,000 workers, how many new firms are registered? How many new firms are registered? So from this point of view, in India, for 1,000 workers, only 0.1 new firm is registered every year, which is very contrasting to the United Kingdom. In UK, this figure is 12.2 new firms every year. In USA, this figure is 12.12 new firms every year. That means the average entrepreneurial intensity is comparatively low if we compare to the global level, right? So till now, can I say that if I go back to the past, then we are doing better, but if I compare our country to rest of the world, then we have still lot to improve, right? So the gaps are visible if we compare our performance with the world performance. In general, the entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial intensity is significantly higher for the developed economies, also suggesting that a large number of India's enterprises operate in the informal economy. So as I already told you, as per different data, more than 90% activity still happens in the informal sector. Now, entrepreneurship and GDP. Entrepreneurial activities directly correlated to the economic growth. What is the meaning of economic growth? Economic growth means increase in the GDP as compared to previous year, right? So if the previous year GDP was 100 rupees and this year GDP is 102 rupees, that means there is 2% economic growth, right? So this is the meaning of economic growth. The entrepreneurial activities relate to the economic growth. There is 10% increase in the registration of new firms per district year yields a 1.8% increase in the GDP. We have already seen this point. The results emphasize the importance of entrepreneurship as an engine of economic growth and change in India. So this emphasizes that how important is entrepreneurship as an engine of economic growth and change in India. The findings highlight the incidence of productive and growth focused entrepreneurial activity in the formal sector in India. As per the survey, though the peninsular states dominate, entry of new firms, entrepreneurship is dispersed across India and is not restricted to just a few metropolitan cities. This is very, very important. This is very, very good. So the job creation can happen in any part of the country. It is not restricted to only to the metropolitan cities. This is very good news. This provides impetus to the balanced regional development. This ensures that urban areas do not grow at the cost of rural areas. It gives rise to the men and women equality also, because women are not forced to migrate to the urban cities only. They can work from their home also. So this is a very, very good aspect. Now coming to the spatial heterogeneity, the estimation of impact of entrepreneurial activity by sector. So if we see sector wise, the impact of new firms entry is greatest in the manufacturing and services sector. So infrastructure and agriculture sector, their growth is not that much high as compared to the manufacturing and the services sector. The findings emphasize the fundamental role that entrepreneurship can play in India's economic growth. So this is a repetition. The movement of labor from other unproductive sectors and subsistence entrepreneurship into entrepreneurship in formal manufacturing and services, right? So movement of labor from, number one, other unproductive sectors. So other unproductive sectors, for example, agriculture. Agriculture is comparatively less productive. I am not saying agriculture is not important. Agriculture is important, but it is comparatively less productive, right? And subsistent entrepreneurship. Subsistent entrepreneurship, for example, the village industries, cottage industries, those are subsistent entrepreneurship. They are working for their own necessity or the necessity of the few selected local people. So they should move to entrepreneurship in the formal manufacturing and services sector. See, manufacturing sector is always considered to be better than the agriculture sector.